Derek Hale found out he'd been downgraded in his daughter's life the same way most middle-aged accountants discovered tragedy, through tiny unread text at the bottom of an expensive document. He sat alone in his apartment above docking Sector 9, wearing sweatpants and reading Chloe's wedding invitation 3 separate times while holding a mug labeled World's Most Aggressively Average Dad. At first, the invitation looked beautiful. Gold holographic borders floated above the screen. Soft violin music played automatically when he opened it. There was even an animated moon orbiting the wedding date because apparently rich people couldn't just send normal invitations anymore. Derek actually smiled. His daughter was getting married. For a few dangerous seconds, he allowed himself to believe maybe things were finally improving between them. Then he noticed the words underneath his RSVP code. Limited guest access. Derek blinked slowly. As opposed to what? He muttered. Full livestock access? He tapped the warning icon beside his name. A list appeared instantly. Ceremony access only? No +1. No rehearsal dinner. No family photos. No live microphone privileges. Assigned to table 48B. Derek adjusted his glasses and kept scrolling with growing horror. Guest is kindly requested to avoid unscripted social interactions with premium attendees. He stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds. Then he whispered, Wow! They made me sound like a loose tiger at a children's zoo. His ex-wife Linda called exactly 3 minutes later, which somehow made the entire thing feel even more insulting. Derek, before you overreact. I enjoy that you opened with confidence, he interrupted calmly. It suggests years of practice. Linda sighed dramatically. The limited access thing was Chloe's idea. Fantastic. Nothing says father-daughter healing like digital restraining orders. You know how socially awkward you can get. I discussed tax deductions during Thanksgiving once. You explained corporate fraud to my mother while she was carving turkey. She asked why billionaires never go to jail. I gave educational feedback. Linda ignored him completely. The wedding is very upscale, Derek. Important people are attending. Investors. Politicians. Executives from the orbital colonies. And your concern is that I might accidentally balance their checkbooks in public? You make people uncomfortable. Derek leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling fan rotating above him like it was also disappointed in his life choices. The truth was, the divorce had destroyed almost everything between him and Chloe. Linda spent years painting Derek as emotionally unavailable when really he just processed feelings like an accountant. Quietly. In spreadsheets. He still loved his daughter more than anything. That was the pathetic part. Even after being treated like a contaminated wedding guest, he still wanted to go. Because somewhere under all the expensive decorations and family politics, Chloe was still the little girl who used to sit beside him during tax season drawing aliens on his paperwork. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Zara stepped into the doorway carrying a bag of takeout containers. The tall alien woman from the apartment across the hall had silver-blue skin, glowing eyes, and the dangerous confidence of someone who knew exactly how attractive she was. Derek, unfortunately, remained completely oblivious. You look emotionally taxable, Zara said dryly. Derek handed her the invitation. She scanned it once before laughing so hard she nearly dropped the food. They classified you like hazardous cargo. I noticed that. No live microphone privileges? Derek, are they afraid you'll overthrow the government? I did correct a waiter's math at Chloe's graduation party once. Zara sat beside him, still grinning. Human women usually intimidated Derek. Zara somehow did the opposite. Maybe because alien culture considered blunt honesty attractive instead of weird. She nudged his shoulder gently. You should still go. She clearly doesn't want me there. She invited you, didn't she? Technically, she invited a restricted version of me. Zara rolled her glowing eyes. You humans complicate family relationships more than interstellar politics. Derek gave a tired smile. There's another problem. What? He hesitated before answering. I already promised Chloe $10,000 for the wedding venue. Zara nearly choked on her drink. You gave these people money after they downgraded you to background furniture? The check hasn't cleared yet, Derek admitted quietly. Then he looked back at the invitation. And for the first time all evening, the veteran accountant inside his brain began calculating numbers instead of feelings. The wedding venue floated above Saturn's outer trade ring like someone had taken a billionaire's ego and turned it into architecture. Derek stood at the entrance wearing his only formal suit, which technically still fit if he avoided sitting too aggressively. The dark gray fabric was 6 years old and carried the faint smell of stress and dry cleaning chemicals. Around him, luxury shuttles unloaded guests dripping in designer jewelry and artificial beauty upgrades. One man literally had gold-colored eyebrows. Derek didn't even know that was possible without a medical condition. At the entrance gate, a smiling robotic hostess scanned invitations. Most guests received a pleasant green welcome light. Derek's invitation flashed orange. The robot paused. Then, in a voice loud enough to embarrass a dead person, it announced, "Limited guests detected. Redirecting to secondary entry access." Several nearby guests turned to stare. Derek adjusted his tie. Good. For a second I was worried this wouldn't feel humiliating enough. A young employee immediately appeared beside him. Sir, if you'll follow me, your seating classification has special movement restrictions. Excellent, Derek replied. I was hoping to experience my daughter's wedding like a low-risk criminal. The employee didn't laugh. That somehow made it worse. Inside, the wedding looked less like a ceremony and more like a luxury space dictatorship. Floating chandeliers drifted through the air while tiny drones carried glowing drinks across the ballroom. A holographic waterfall poured down one wall for absolutely no reason except rich people apparently hated having savings accounts. Derek spotted his parents near the VIP tables. His mother saw him first. Then immediately pretended to be deeply interested in a flower arrangement. His father gave a tiny nod that carried the emotional warmth of expired yogurt. Classic family affection. Chloe finally approached wearing an elegant silver wedding dress that probably cost more than Derek's apartment lease. For a moment, his heart softened. She still looked like his little girl. Then she spoke in the same fake corporate tone as the venue staff. Dad, thank you for coming. Interesting phrasing, Derek said. Makes it sound optional for both of us. She ignored the comment. Please stay within the ceremony zones before dinner service starts. I appreciate that my own child now explains weddings like emergency evacuation procedures. Chloe looked exhausted more than cruel, but before Derek could say anything meaningful, Linda appeared beside her like an expensive shark sensing financial activity. There you are, Linda said tightly. Try not to wander into the premium lounges. Derek blinked slowly. You separated wedding guests into economic classes? It's about organization. Pretty sure that's also how dictators explain trains. Linda rolled her eyes and pulled Chloe away toward wealthy guests gathering near the stage. Derek wandered toward the back tables, mentally calculating how much money had been wasted on decorative nonsense alone. Then he overheard two event planners talking near the champagne fountain. The venue payment finally cleared? One whispered. Linda laughed nearby. Oh please. Derek's predictable. He'd never make a scene over money. Another voice chimed in. Honestly, inviting him was smart. $10,000 for one awkward dinner guest? Worth it. Linda smirked while sipping champagne. He should honestly thank us for including him at all. Derek stood perfectly still. Something cold settled quietly into his chest. Not anger. Worse. Clarity. They had already spent the money. They never expected him to matter enough to say no. A familiar voice suddenly spoke behind him. You humans really do marry for financial suffering. Derek turned in surprise. Zara stood there in a fitted black security uniform, silver eyes glowing with amusement. Several nearby men openly stared at her, but she ignored all of them and walked straight toward Derek. You work here? He asked. Interstellar venue security consultant. You carry weapons? Several. That's comforting. Zara glanced toward Linda. I also carry emotional opinions. Derek sighed tiredly. You heard that? I heard enough. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. They treated you like rented furniture. I've honestly had worse Tuesdays. Zara studied him carefully. What are you calculating right now? Derek stared across the ballroom at the floating champagne tower, the imported seafood display, and the orchestra suspended above the dance floor. Then he quietly answered. Approximately how long this wedding survives without $10,000. Derek had spent 23 years working as an accountant, which meant he understood two important truths about human behavior. First, rich people loved pretending consequences were for other people. Second, numbers eventually humbled everyone. The reception officially began 30 minutes later beneath a rotating hologram of Chloe and her fiancé kissing in slow motion, while artificial snow drifted from the ceiling for absolutely no logical reason. Derek sat alone at table 48B beside three elderly women arguing about prescription medication prices on Mars. Oddly enough, they were the nicest people there. One of them leaned toward him. You look like you're planning a murder. Worse, Derek replied calmly. Administrative consequences. Across the ballroom, Linda floated from guest to guest pretending she personally invented elegance. Chloe looked stressed while her new husband smiled for endless photos beside the champagne fountain Derek had apparently financed without permission. Zara stood near the security entrance watching everything with glowing amusement. When their eyes met, she raised one eyebrow. Derek slowly removed his phone. The banking application opened instantly. Transfer pending, $10,000. Recipient, Celestial Orbital Events. Below it sat one beautiful option. Cancel transaction. Derek hesitated for exactly 2 seconds. Then pressed it. Nothing happened immediately, which somehow made it funnier. He calmly placed the phone face down and took a sip of water while the wedding orchestra played dramatic romantic music overhead. Then chaos arrived like divine comedy with excellent timing. The holographic chandeliers flickered. Music abruptly stopped mid-song. Several floating drink drones froze in the air before dropping champagne directly onto a wealthy guest wearing white silk. A loud automated voice suddenly echoed throughout the ballroom. Warning! Primary venue payment authorization failure detected. Every conversation died instantly. The room went silent except for one dessert drone smashing into a cake table. Linda's face lost all human color. A terrified manager sprinted across the ballroom holding a tablet. Mrs. Carter, he whispered harshly. The venue transfer was reversed. What? Linda snapped. The 10,000 credit authorization disappeared. Around the room, luxury systems began shutting down one by one. The glowing dance floor turned dark. The orchestra platform slowly descended because apparently gravity returned once rich people stopped paying invoices. Guests immediately began murmuring. Did the payment bounce? I thought this wedding was elite. Who reverses a venue transfer during the reception? Derek quietly raised one finger. Technically, he said, it was still pending. Linda spotted him across the room. The expression on her face looked like someone discovering termites inside a Ferrari. You did this? She shrieked. Every guest turned toward Derek. Even Chloe froze. Derek stood slowly, adjusting his old suit jacket with calm professionalism. I merely corrected a financial misunderstanding. You embarrassed this family. No, Derek replied evenly. You invited me as decorative funding. Several nearby guests winced. Linda stormed toward him furiously. You selfish little. At that exact moment, a microphone hidden near the stage activated automatically as she grabbed it by accident. Her screaming voice echoed across the entire ballroom. Perfect. Derek blinked once. Well, since we apparently have audio equipment now. The room became painfully quiet. Derek took the microphone gently from Linda's hand. I was informed my attendance at this wedding was heavily restricted due to concerns about my social behavior. He paused. Ironically, the only thing causing a scene tonight appears to be unpaid luxury seafood. A few guests snorted with laughter. Linda looked ready to explode. Derek continued calmly. My ex-wife also informed several guests that I was harmless and predictable enough to finance this event without complaint. More uncomfortable silence spread across the ballroom. Then one arrogant businessman near the VIP tables scoffed loudly. You canceled your own daughter's wedding over money? Derek looked at him politely. No. I canceled a transaction funding people who treated me like an emotional biohazard. Even the bartender laughed at that. The businessman sneered. And what exactly do you do for a living? I manage financial compliance for 3 interstellar shipping corporations. The man's expression changed immediately. Wait. Hale Financial Consulting? Derek nodded once. Suddenly 2 guests nearby turned toward him. You're Derek Hale? The Derek Hale? Another guest hurried closer. You saved our company nearly $4 million during a tax investigation. Within seconds, wealthy attendees began surrounding Derek asking questions about investments, audits, and corporate loopholes while the wedding collapsed behind them. Meanwhile, Linda screamed at venue staff. The open bar officially shut down. Guests panicked like civilization itself had ended. And through all the chaos, Zara leaned against the wall laughing so hard tears formed in her glowing eyes. You beautiful, terrifying accountant, she whispered. Derek quietly handed the microphone back to the stunned wedding coordinator and walked toward the exit while chaos consumed the ballroom behind him. Somewhere near the dance floor, 2 rich guests were arguing over who still had access to the premium lobster station. One of the decorative ice sculptures had started melting onto an expensive carpet. The suspended orchestra platform refused to rise again because the automated system had switched into payment recovery mode. Honestly, Derek thought the whole thing looked significantly more authentic now. The cold air outside the orbital venue hit him as the giant Saturn rings glowed across the station windows. For the first time all evening, the noise disappeared. And underneath the relief, something painful finally settled in his chest. Maybe he really had ruined Chloe's wedding. Maybe this would become the final thing that permanently destroyed whatever relationship they had left. Derek stared down at his hands quietly. I probably could have handled that with slightly less financial violence, he muttered. Disagree, Zara said immediately behind him. I personally think you showed admirable restraint. Derek turned as she walked beside him, still smiling in that dangerous way that made him forget basic sentence structure. You realize most people don't flirt immediately after witnessing emotional warfare, he said. My species finds competence attractive. I cancelled catering payments. You did it with timing. Very seductive. Derek actually laughed for the first time all night. Then the venue doors opened again. Chloe stepped outside still wearing her wedding dress, though now she looked less like a perfect socialite and more like an exhausted daughter who hadn't slept in days. Dad? Derek straightened awkwardly. If you're here to yell at me, I should warn you I already accepted responsibility internally. Chloe shook her head slowly. No. Mom lied to me. Derek froze. She kept saying you didn't care about the wedding, Chloe admitted quietly. She told me limiting your access would prevent drama. Her eyes dropped toward the floor. I didn't realize she was treating you like an ATM. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Chloe suddenly laughed once through embarrassed tears. I can't believe the dessert drones shut down before the cake arrived. Derek sighed. That part exceeded my projections. She stepped closer. You embarrassed Mom in front of everyone. She seemed emotionally committed to the experience. Chloe covered her face, half laughing now despite herself. I hate that this is funny. It's genetically inherited. That finally broke the tension between them. For the first time in years, Chloe hugged him tightly. Derek closed his eyes for a second, holding on to his daughter like he was afraid the moment might disappear. I'm sorry, she whispered. You didn't deserve that. No, Derek admitted softly. But neither did you. Behind them, shouting erupted from inside the venue again. Apparently the wedding planner had discovered the ice sculpture rental company wanted immediate payment before allowing anyone to keep the decorative swans. Zara peeked through the doors. Oh, your ex-wife is threatening someone with legal action near the seafood display. Still classy, Derek replied. Chloe wiped her eyes and smiled weakly. So, are you really leaving? Derek shrugged. I figured my limited guest privileges probably expired after the financial uprising. Chloe laughed again. Then she looked toward Zara standing beside him. Her expression slowly changed. Oh my God! Derek blinked. What? She likes you. Derek looked genuinely confused. Zara looked offended. I have been flirting with you for 8 months. I thought you were just aggressively polite. I invited you to dinner naked once. You said it was cultural. It was. Chloe nearly choked laughing. Derek rubbed his forehead. In my defense, human dating became confusing after online banking. Zara stepped closer, amusement glowing in her silver eyes. You are either the dumbest intelligent man alive, or the most honest. Both can be true statistically. She kissed him before he could overanalyze the situation further. Inside the venue, another loud crash echoed through the ballroom, followed by Linda screaming something about non-refundable shrimp towers. Derek glanced back once at the disaster. Then he looked at Chloe smiling again for the first time all night. And finally at Zara still holding his hand. Turns out being downgraded to limited guests saved him from paying full price for people who forgot what family was supposed to mean.